Well, first Holmes was born, then he got fat, bald, and tired. Sup, Holmes?
Beware your host, Jonathan Holmes.
Thank you, Star, as always. And thank you, Austin Ivansmith, for returning to the show. You're one of our few and privileged and truly loved return guests. This means
thank you.
More than
thank you. I feel truly loved. I feel privileged, and I feel the other thing that you said. I appreciate it. That's cool. It's fun to be here. I'm glad to be here.
And such a interesting time in your life, in your career, your life in general. This is what, a week after Ducktales Remastered came out?
Less than a week. Less than a week. Yeah, it came out Tuesday. Yeah. So this has been a pretty. Yeah, this week's been pretty nuts. So I've never worked on a game where they've done a midnight embargo review launch. So that was kind of neat.
I bet. And then how has it felt to be done with it? To really, unless you do DLC or Capcom calls you back to immediately start work on it again, to really have put a period on the end of that sentence. How's that been feeling?
It doesn't feel like there's a period on the end of that sentence yet. It's kind of surreal, because I mean we are going to be supporting some updates. We already put out an update on PC, and probably do a couple more updates in the future. So it's not quite done yet, but it's very surreal because it's been my life for the past year and a half, and it's going to be really hard to move on. Because this year's been awesome because I got to go to Comic-Con and I got to go to E3 and do a bunch of interviews and WonderCon, and Nintendo invited me to Spain back in April. A big part of it being DuckTales, and next year there's probably not going to be anything cool like this. It's just going to be sad and depressing. Me walking around a washed-up has-been. I remember last year when I was going there, they invited me to Comic-Con. I talked on a panel. I said something to George R. Martin before he walked out of the room. So yeah, we had a panel for a Capcom panel in the same room that George R. Martin, the author of the Game of Thrones series of books, was in, and he had 30 people swarming the stage before he even got a chance to leave. And he was so nice. And if you remember, last time I was on the show, I was talking about Game of Thrones, but he was so nice to the fans, and they were just like, "Hey, look at this, look at this." He's like, "Oh my gosh, that's so cool! You made some kind of this armor. You made this. That's so neat." He was so friendly. He was getting ushered out, and I was standing next to the exit door, and I go, "Hey, George, love your books." And then he kind of stops and he looks at me, and he goes, and then he keeps walking. I'm like, "Oh God, what did I do?" But I think he might have thought he knew me, or because I said George. I should have said Mr. Martin. I'm I didn't know what to say because I heard other people say George. So, but he was really friendly. I think I just caught him off guard because someone was talking to him. So, but I was really happy.
Sure, I would be too. That's great. I would imagine that after having just come up with all these things to say to fans and had that exchange, he might have just kind of been empty for social exchange. That certainly happened to me now and again. Somebody says something really nice to you and catch you off guard, and you're just like, I want to say something worthwhile to you, but I got nothing. Sorry, my brain stopped.
Or you're getting a text or a phone call from your wife right at that moment. You're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I really gotta," and you're distracted, or you're just in a bad point, and you're like, "Man, that guy's a douchebag. He wouldn't talk to me. He got some text message. Who is he? Important?" And it's like, "Oh, my kid's sick. He needs medicine." I don't know, that kind of thing. Medicine costs $5. Yeah.
Has that been happening to you at all? Now that you've been, like you said, the press junket you've been on has been pretty noticeable, pretty high profile, I'd say.
Yeah, which is strange because it's just, I've been working 8 years, and we had people come up to me after the things, and it's like, "Oh, I want to ask you all these things," and I was in their boat 8 years ago, when I was in school, and it's like I want to ask people questions and whatever, and so I wanted to make sure I got to answer whatever questions and get contacts with people because I know what it's like to be in their shoes, and if people genuinely have a question I want to passionately work in games, what do I do? And I want to give them good advice. I don't want to give them bad advice. So you try to talk to every single person and really care about what they care about what they say and show that you care because it's very easy to make it seem like you don't. It's very easy to misinterpret like the slightest bit of confusion or tiredness as being an ignoring jerk. But I mean, I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy with a beard and hair, like a lot of guys that work in the industry. So I'm no one special. I'm just lucky because I got to work on these posters back here.
Yeah, those are very nice posters. That's looks like the NES art and the new art. Is that about right?
Yeah, these are the posters that they gave out at the shows. They gave out at PAX and then recently at Comic-Con. And they sent some to Wayfor, and so we handed them out to everybody. And yeah, it's pretty neat. They're hanging all over people's cubes.
Old cartridges?
Oh, what? Why? Yes, I did. I happen to have one right here. Capcom was gracious enough to send 5 of them to our company, and so we handed them out to the leads. And I got number 89, which is cool because the game came out in '89. And you got the lunchbox back there. We got the front page of the script, signed by all the voice actors, except for Terrence McGovern because he was up in the Bay Area. I might have to mail it to him and have him sign it, send it back. And then I Am 8-Bit. They hand sewed all the pillow coins that were at the real life money bin, and then they sent like two giant pallets of them to our company. Got over 230 of these pillow coins, and my wife got me those Scrooge, the Scrooge stuffed animals at some lady was selling for like $5, like Scrooge and the 2 nephews, like super cheap. So like, and so they sit on this. This is stuff that's usually at my desk, but I'm like, I'm on Holmes. So I like packed it all up, and everyone's like, what are you doing? Are you leaving? You moving desk? Like, no. It's gonna be on internet video. And then I got the cane, the infamous cane I use in all the videos. $6 on the internet. Go get it. Get your own cane. Yeah. Dress up as Scrooge this Halloween. You're gonna love it. So yeah, and I got my bottle of water, which is good.
I was just about to say your enthusiasm, your genuine enthusiasm for DuckTales is so infectious and so apparent. You were gonna say though? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut off.
How dare you cut me off? My enthusiasm is so infectious that you can't interrupt it. That's just jerky. No, I was just wearing my my Get Ducky shirt, which is Daft Duck. So it's got like the the normal style bill, and then it's got kind of the Darkwing Duck long bill. But yeah, the Daft Punk Duck sort of mix. It's kind of fun. So there you go.
Darkwing.
Sorry to interrupt you, Jonathan.
Not at all. Darkwing and Donald, is it, or Darkwing and Scrooge?
It's just a style. It's just a Darkwing style bill, which is like kind of the longer. I think it might not have the under, because that was a big thing with Darkwing, is he had the under chin with the long bill. But most ducks, I think, in DuckTales had the shorter bill, like Scrooge and the nephews and everybody. Bigger bills weren't, I think, as common. So.
Right. Yeah, they're more cute that way, in my opinion. It's opposed to Daffy, who's like, I don't know. He's not ugly, I wouldn't say, but he is sometimes troubling looking.
Well, and then you got Launchpad. Launchpad's got the big butt chin that like hangs down, real low. He's got that. He's got a weird bill. I never understood that, and that bill was always very confusing to me as a child.
So for people that don't know, what was your role exactly on DuckTales, and how many people were involved with the project as a whole?
I was the director on the project, so I oversaw the creative development of the game from start to finish. If you think of a director in a film, that's kind of what the directors on the games do. Usually at a studio, they work on less games, but Wayfor works on anywhere from 4 to 6 games at a time. So what would normally be under one creative director overseeing like 1 or 2 or 3 games is like doled out to like 4 to 5 to 6 directors who are attached to the project from start to finish to be able to make sure that everything's getting taken care of creatively, and with the oversight of our creative director Matt Bozon, who'll be on the show in a few weeks. Haha!
Yeah. Can't wait.
And then and what I did was we didn't have an art director on the project. So I did lead design. I also did art direction. So I oversaw the level art creation, all the animation, The script, our creative director Matt Bozon really wanted to write the script because he's such a huge fan of the original DuckTales, and he likes writing, and so he wrote the original pass of the script, and then we needed to hire some people, to ramp up for the project, and we hired a programmer, and his name's Yussi, and he came in and got the job and just got a programming job, and it's like, oh, what project will I be on? Like, oh, well, you're going to be working on DuckTales. We're remaking DuckTales, and he just went, are you kidding me? Are you serious? It's like, oh, you've heard of it? You're a fan? He's like, I'm the biggest DuckTales fan I know, and like he's active in like DuckTales fan communities. He's been doing like fan writing himself and all this stuff. So like he's an expert, this guy. So it was pretty neat. So he wanted to write the script, but Matt takes precedence. He trumped him. But after Matt wrote a script, we gave it to Yussi, and Yussi did a read through, and he did some editing. He also did some writing on it. So Yussi as a programmer to say like, man, like to have the opportunity to write on a game, this was so much fun. And then I took a little stab at it with having to kind of bring it together, tie it together, add some lines. I was very involved in all aspects. And at the end of the project, in the last couple months, I moved my desk over to sit with the programmers, and I installed Windows Visual Studio, and I was going in and changing game code because the programmers were fixing bugs, and I wanted to tune things, and so I would just go in and like manipulate some of the variables, and then I'd show it to our lead programmer and say, did I do this right? Did I break it? And he goes, oh no, you did that. Oh, that's cool. I'm like, is this okay? Instead of like me sitting over your shoulder saying like, do this, change this, change this. He's like, no, go for it. This is faster and it's easier. I got more important things to do. he had some big bugs to fix. So I was even doing a little bit of programming there at the end. And that's sort of the thing with the director. It's like you wear a lot of hats and you walk around dealing with a lot of smaller things, just making sure it all comes together. So it's generally what our responsibilities are at the company.
Yeah, that's an intense amount of work and responsibility and involvement, and it really, as I'm sure you've heard from plenty of people, when you play DuckTales Remastered, you just get the sense that this was so touched by human hands and so like loved directly. It's like a direct channel of just pure DuckTales admiration just in this thing from start to finish, particularly in the script. It's been really surprising for me to play it. I'm not a big cutscenes guy most of the time. I'll skip them after I've seen them once, or maybe try to just ignore them in the first place. But I'm like looking forward to the cutscenes sometimes and just trying to rush through the game to like get more dialogue and get more writing out of it. And even weirder, I like DuckTales, but I hadn't watched it in years. I forgot that the voice acting and the writing in the world was that charming. But when those little bastards bust out those Unca Scrooges, oh, I don't know Unca Scrooge. I'm just like, it's so freaking good. It's so pure and irony-free, and just like it's got character. It's got a little bit of bite. It's not like completely flavorless in any way. It's got a lot of flavor, but without having to toss in a lot of irony or negativity or so much of the stuff you get in today's culture, which also had me guessing it was going to play very well to a global audience, because the kind of sarcasm and snark that's really big in the United States, they don't care for that whatsoever. In Japan and in a lot of Europe, they don't. It doesn't fly for them. So I was really hoping after playing it that this is going to be a big global hit. What was going on when you were making it in terms of what you were thinking was going to happen with the game? What were your hopes and expectations in terms of the reception and that? Because it's such a high pressure job, I'd imagine, to be taking on this franchise.
Yeah, high pressure job is kind of an understatement, because when we first got the game, it was oh cool, we're remaking the NES game, and then when Disney said, oh, this game is playing great, hey, let's get the voice actors in there. And it's like, what? And then the pressure, and I want to say, like, I'm really glad you're appreciating it. And for anyone who doesn't like the cutscenes and who isn't a cutscene person, like, I understand, because I'm generally not a cutscene person. And so I like the comparisons. There's been like one or two only, but to Hideo Kojima, where it's like people are saying you should just make it cutscene free, and it's like, well, the day Hideo Kojima makes his Metal Gear games cutscene free, I'll make DuckTales cutscene free. So I'm putting myself in that echelon, so because I feel like it. But there was a decent amount of pressure because it's we're not just bringing back the NES game. I mean, we are bringing back the NES game, but if we only made the NES game, then I think we'd be doing a disservice to DuckTales as a whole because it's been so long. If this was 1994, let's say DuckTales was popular 5 years ago or 7 years ago, and we were remaking a game like that, it would be different because there would already be so many other DuckTales things out there. But because there are some DVDs out in the world, but that's just about it. You go to our creative director went to Disneyland, and he said he had a hard time finding anything DuckTales themed or DuckTales related or Scrooge related. So it's kind of become this like C-class Disney franchise in recent years, just because it's not being pushed by them as hard. So the fact that the Alan Young and June Foray are in their 90s. A number of the other actors who had done the show 20 years ago have passed away. It was kind of like it needed to be a love letter to DuckTales. We needed something that really captured the spirit of it. And there were a couple lines that were pulled directly from the show. We said, "Is this weird that we're copying this from the show?" Right off the bat. What Duckworth's saying, the pedal is to the metal, Mr. McDuck. It was, well, let's do it. It makes sense. It's Scrooge, racing to the vault. Let's use it. It just makes sense. So, big credit to Matt and Yussi who have been following the show more recently than I have. Who just got it, who understood, like what sounds like the show. And I understand that there's people out there who may not be fans of cutscenes, and it may not be just like the NES game, but that's what we strive to do. We set out to do that, and I'm very happy with the result. And faced with the same decision, I'd do it again. Because I think it's important to capture this. All the cutscenes are fully skippable. And I wanted to make sure that people could skip them. So
that's good of you. I hope they don't, though. I mean, and you don't know until you see it how high the quality is, and I was excited for you, thinking about the fact that you got to make this kind of new DuckTales episode, you and your team, of course, and the little incidental animations you get to add during the dialogue. It really does feel like a perfect amalgamation of the show and the game, but the animation's actually kind of better than the show, which makes me feel kind of bad for the show.
That's fine, because I mean our animators worked their butts off, and they did an amazing job, and I couldn't have asked for a better team. Like they were incredible. I just can't speak highly enough of how talented they are and how much they cared, and that's sort of the thing I wanted to just touch on real quick that you said earlier, is that it felt like hands were touching this game. There was care from everybody. The audio team wanted to make sure that everything they put in sounded great. The animators, the background artists, like they would come to me and say, like, look, I know it's past alpha, we're not at beta yet, and this piece of art has been approved and it's done, but I don't think it's good enough. Can I just polish it? Can I try something? And I'm like, yeah, go for it. Try it. If you feel it could be better and you have the time to do it and you can squeeze that in, go for it. And just because they care, and the programmers are the same way. The programmers cared so much about the game. Our lead programmer Dan, Daniel Yoon, he just said, like, this boss has got to play more fun. Like he cared about the boss playing fun. He cared about the graphics being good. And our engine team. Like we had a really amazing engine team. That was there just as late, if not later, than the programmers towards the end, just making sure frame rate was being hit. Trying to find ways to get our frame rate up to 60 and making sure that it was just great across the board. I mean, just the care that the team had is something I've never seen before, and it was amazing. So I forgot what we were saying before I went off track and talked about the care the team had. It wasn't too off track, but the animators, yeah. I mean and they're. When you go back and you look at a lot of shows, Adam Tierney, who I think you've heard of at my work, he talks about he has this, the Batman set from Batman the Animated Series, and you watch some episodes, or even like Feet of Clay, where it's like this two-parter that always played after school back in the early 90s, and it was, part one had some of the worst animation you've ever seen, and part two had some of the most amazing animation. It could have been in film. And it depends on who they send it to. They send it to different places, and we looked at some of the Scrooge cells that they opened up the vaults, and so we had like a table full of boxes of TV show animation that we scanned to put in the gallery for the game. And there's a number of those frames that are just off model. The drawings are just awful. It's like, ugh, like how, like, yeah, that was that. I mean, but it's on the show really quickly. But you got to figure these guys were under the gun also. They had very low budgets, very little time. It's like you got an hour to do this. Get it on your first pass, and you got to send it off to Korea or Japan to have it finished up. And it's, well, you give it your best guess and go for it. But and we had a couple animations that were like that, where it's like this animation's playing once, or this is just an enemy and his death animation, whatever. But with like Scrooge's animations, like the animators put a lot of time into them. So. Yeah, I feel like we had more time to polish the animations that you might have on a TV show. And I'm glad you like the cinematics. I feel like it'd be so much easier to do an episode of a TV show than it was to do this game, because you have to make those animations like ease in and out of all the other animations, or a grouping of animations. So you have to like plan out like, oh, well, this animation transitions into this one and it transitions back into that. So you have to take the idle, have it transition into this one, have this one loop, and have that transition back out. Or you might have another one that branches off of that. So it's like, here's his idle. Okay, transition into the angry, then go from the angry and then transition into this, and then go back to the angry, then back to the idle. And it's like, so like the construct of making all that work is very difficult. Whereas the TV show, it's like, make this shot look really good and make it move from here to there. Right. And it's like, and then it's just done, and it's done, and you never touch it again. Kind of. I know I'm making it sound really simple, but I'd love to just try to direct a show and just be like, this is easy. This is nothing.
Well, yeah, you did end up doing a script with actors and animations just like you would a show, and you had to worry about gameplay, and you had to when you build something like a video game.
And we had to add blinks. I got to say that too, for all the animation. All the animations have to have blinks in them. So the characters need to be blinking, and to do blinks on like a 3D character, it's easy, because it's like, oh yeah, well, rig the eyes, blink, or do like a texture animation, and you just swap to that texture, and it's like a 3D character can be running, and his head can be in any position, he'll blink, But then with the 2D guys, it's like if Scrooge is here in one drawing and he's over here in another drawing, it's like we got to draw a blink for each one of those animations. It's
Whoa. So he can blink at any time in any part of his animation?
No, just mostly for the idols. So that's the conclusion we came to. Like when there's action going on, they don't blink, but when they're standing there talking, like they can't like not blink. If they just sit there staring and never blink, it would feel really creepy. So they need to blink. And I can watch you blinking. You're blinking different. You're thinking about it, aren't you?
I am. I'm thinking about an analogy I'm going to try on you. What I imagine it was like for you was like if making a show would be like building a tower that goes straight up, layer on top of layer, and then you're done. What you were doing seems like making like intercrossing towers that are all building in different directions but need to fit together. The gameplay needed to fit with the way that the story worked, and the art had to fit with the music in such a way that when the gameplay changes, the music needs to be able to fit with that, and the amount of organization that it sounds like it probably took is astounding.
Yes, and that's what video games are. I mean, like the construction of this video game is probably no different than many other video games, especially ones that have stories, even more complex stories than Ducktales. Because it's that kind of building, but it's also like making it match with all sorts of foundations and accounting for all possibilities of all building formations you would ever need. Because the moment you run into one that doesn't work, you don't want to have to scrap the whole thing. So that's fun. But in the end, you do have problems, and so that's why you have band-aids and duct tape. Like video games are held together by band-aids and duct tape, and that's just. Digital versions.
Sure. Yeah, but the tape isn't showing so far. The duct tape. Get it?
Oh my God! Why?
You did one.
Why? No, I didn't do that. No, I lobbed it out there, but I regret it.
So it's probably going to be, speaking of lobbing, this hopefully is going to be the hardest question I ask you on this show. But I might do hardball questions. I told people I was going to get tough this week.
Do it, please. Get
Buddy,
tough.
so
Get tough.
it's hard for me to get tough. I'm not.
No,
I'm naturally
get tough.
pretty
Tough up.
not tough. How has it been? I'll try. This is the highest profile project you've worked on yet. So I imagine, I'm hoping that people will see what you did with NES game and what you've crafted it into, and say we want to get this guy to work on more stuff. So I'm hoping this is just the start of a rise for you. But all the same, it's a high watermark in a lot of ways, and the critical reception has been not what I expected, to be honest. How has that been for you to see some reviews 10 out of 10 glowing reviews, other reviews really almost like mean-spirited at times, some of the ones I've read. There's been a kind of a harshness to the tone in a lot of them.
Well, I'll say this. So, in terms of my meteoric rise to amazingness, I think that with the talent pool we have at WayForward, any of the other directors, could have directed it and done just as an amazing of a job, because it wasn't all on me. We had a really strong team behind it and a lot of passion, and I think any other directors, the game would have turned out just as good as it did. So, not to say I didn't do a good job, but because I did. So pat myself on the back there. But it isn't all me. It's what WayForward really does build itself up in a way to allow someone like myself in the seat of the director to have the kind of creative freedom to be able to care about the project and really push for the things that we care about, that we think are going to make it a great game. As for the reviews, it was hard. It was really hard, and as an artist, it's hard. It's the hardest thing to put your work out there and get critiqued. You have to do all the time in art school, and it can be a little easier in art school because you're there. You can have a sort of talk back and forth. If someone says, "Well, I don't like this because it looks like this," and you say, "Oh, well, I did that for this, for reason X," and they can say, "Oh, I can kind of see that, but I still don't like it." You feel better that your voice is being heard, and so that's why I think you every now and then find people out there ranting about like, no, but that's what we were trying to do, kind of thing. But also, for me, it was a little hard to see, a couple of those reviews come in. But I think that the fact that it has such split ratings, I don't think is necessarily a bad thing, because I think what's happening is there's people are reviews are subjective. They're very subjective. Everything's subjective. You can try to make it as objective as possible, and there's a lot of objectivity, but at the end of the day, reviews still have a lot of subjectivity to them, and the fact that a lot of people are liking, a lot of people don't like it, it's coming from a place of personal taste, and I think that's actually a good thing, because if it was coming from a place of like, well, it absolutely doesn't work because this is what you should never do, kind of thing, and everyone said that, it'd be different. And if everyone was just praising it, yeah, that'd be great. But sometimes you see that and you just wonder, like, and you play something, you're like, well, I don't like this. Why does everyone else like it? And that's what it comes down to. At the end of the day, everyone, they're all, it's all subjective, and I think. I don't know that I saw too many mean-spirited ones, and even the ones that you might think are mean-spirited, I'm actually reading and going, I can see that. I can see their point. I can see their viewpoint, where it's not for them. The game, for better or worse, might not hold up today. It might be something where there might be some rose-colored glasses. Like if you keep the enemies this way, they don't really kind of make sense for today, and it's like, well, that's because that's how it was back then, and we're trying to make the game like it was on the NES. And so there are a couple people that are saying, like, well, should we make an NES game like this now? And the answer might be no, but it's what we did, and so we're kind of, I guess, raising the question, like, what should a game be? And every now and again, it's like, oh, these bosses are pattern based. It's like, well, yes, like most bosses are pattern based. That's the strange thing, that what actually kind of works in gameplay is that there's almost the illusion that there's more going on than what there actually is, and maybe there's not enough illusion in our bosses, so that's what you can take from it. I like to think that there's always something you can get from a review, but sometimes there's not. Sometimes it's stuff you already knew, and it's like, yeah, I know what you're saying, but I don't agree with you, and I would have done it the same way again. And I feel that way about a lot of them. It's, oh, well, that's your viewpoint, and I don't agree with it. And for the people that got it and like it, that's who we were making it for. If the reviews of the people that really like it, you see the reasons why they liked it. If you think you're going to like it for those same reasons, you're probably going to love the game, and a lot of people are loving the game, and that's what's amazing to me. You go on the Miiverse, and people are loving it. There's people on the message boards on Steam, like, people are absolutely loving the game. We're getting emails from fans that are just saying, like, you guys got it, you did it right, and that is making me so happy. I can't even tell you how happy it is and surreal. So, bad reviews are something I'm not new to. When I worked at my last place, and like I said before, I was a review on Cheat Code Central that still has pictures from a different game than the one they reviewed for us. So it's kind of like, like I kind of don't care, because it was Baja 1000. Yeah, they're using images from Baja Edge of Control. It makes you wonder, did they actually play it? And that's sort of the other thing, is like, I don't even read review scores anymore. Like, if for games that I'm going to play, what I like to do is find either a site or a person who has a really objective viewpoint and a really kind of fair look on things, and just follow them and follow what they say, because a site, it's a site. That's not a person. Like, you could hand a review to any other person at a site, and you might get a different review. And
oh, sure.
But I don't know how it works. Because I know like it should all go through a reviews editor, who then kind of makes those decisions. And so who knows if they would actually say to someone, no, you, like, I played it and you didn't understand it. Like, no, we can't let our website say that. So I don't know if that's what happens. So well,
I can.
But
as
for myself. Yeah, well, sorry. Just speaking for myself, I don't even look at scores anymore. I want to just try things out for myself, because you never know where someone's coming from. If someone doesn't like a certain type of game and they review it badly, and you do like that type of game, but you see that it got a bad review, you might not try it. You might be missing out on something that's great. So
absolutely, you only really know when you play it yourself, and it has made me sad in the past when people, with Let's Plays as well, when they take the opinions and perspectives of others, either written or in video form, and substitute them for the opportunity to check out for themselves. That always makes me kind of sad. Anything that gets between people actually interacting with a video game usually bums me out. And review scores, when done well, they just reflect how you felt about something, and don't have the illusion of being like review points currency, that this game is worth more because it's an 8 as opposed to a 6 or something. But that's how people. I mean, it's sad. I was just thinking the other day that I wouldn't be sad if Destructoid changed its score point system to some ridiculous currency, like, I don't know, hamburgers or something. This gets 9 hamburgers out of 10. That would just kind of diffuse the idea that this is like really a test score that's, you really are a better game just because you got a 9.
It's sad, but I mean, also companies get jobs based on their Metacritic. We're not going to give you this game because you Metacritic low on this one, and it's like, well, jobs are at stake sometimes. It's really kind of sad that video games are art, yet everything's based on these critical reviews being seen as fact, and then turning into sales, and it's weird. Whatever. I just want to make games and just know that the games we're making are things people are enjoying. So every email that we get that's just a thank you, it just means more to me than any 10, really.
Sure.
Because like that's neat, and it feels good. But when you get an email and someone's telling their personal story on like what it means to them to play a game they really love, that means more to me.
Yeah, that's a real review right there. That makes a lot of sense. And I'm glad because it would be easy, if I were in your position, it would be easy for me to have this need to focus on all of the negative reviews and fight them. And, this happens to video game developers who end up quitting the industry because the negative feedback that they get from video game culture ends up being so addictively toxic. I think it was described in a comic book I read recently as candy that hates you. And it's exactly how it feels when you're just getting all of this bad feedback, but you just want to keep reading it and find a way to like counter it, but it's impossible. You're never going to get there. So I'm glad that you're able to focus on so much of the positive energy you're getting from your work, and you certainly deserve it. But do you feel like also I'll give you more of my feedback. When I was playing Ducktales Remastered, I did think a few times like I wish they could have just made an all new DuckTales game. Like I like the old DuckTales NES game, but it's honestly it's one that I play usually for like 15 minutes at a time and then drop, as opposed to Mega Man 2. It's not a bad game by any means, but I know what you guys at WayForward are capable of, and I couldn't help but feel sometimes like if you had the chance, there were so many new ideas you could have put in there, but of the respect to your craft that you have and the assignment you had, I knew you were going to stick as closely to the original as you could while kind of inflating it and adding to it in ways to make it more worthwhile. So when you were working on it, did you ever feel an urge to kind of just bust out and do a completely new level design or a new idea or something that, due to the job at hand, you weren't able to do?
No, because there was enough creative freedom given to us by Capcom to be able to do what we wanted to do already, and they wanted the game to be a lot like the NES one, and that was something that just clicked with me. Like I loved the idea, and if they would have come to us and said, "Hey, we want you to make a completely new DuckTales game," that would have been great too. A part of me might have said like, "Man, it'd be fun to make it play like the NES game." So to actually make it a lot like the NES game, it wasn't a crutch at all. It was really fun, and we got to expand on the bosses and push the levels where we felt they needed to be pushed and try out a few things and just have fun with it. But I think really kind of keeping it to the core of what the original was is also kind of a love letter to platformers, because it is a very quirky mechanic that isn't common. Like his pogo abilities, he only has two abilities in the game, and that's his cane swing and his pogo jump, and those are used everywhere, and they're they're weird, they're very different, and we needed a tutorial to teach people how to do it, because even for people that might remember how to do it a little bit, needed just a small reminder, and so we try to make it very, very unobtrusive, and so people could just get that little nudge, like, remember this? Like, oh, I remember this. So it's just as easy as your friend sitting next to you go, like, I don't remember how to do this. I go, just do this. And you're like, oh, okay, I got it now. So that's all the tutorial is. It's real simple. But I think like bringing back that classic gameplay is good, because I play some platformers that sort of underestimate how hard it is to make a good platformer these days. Platformers were the only, they were like the most common game made, back in the 80s, because it was probably one of the easier ones to make. Everyone had their template that they built from. But nowadays, you kind of try to replicate it. It's like when you see someone try to replicate bad art, or bad art trying to replicate good art, where it's like, I want it to look like Monet. I'm going to put the filter on it in Photoshop, and it's like, oh, that's such a bastardization of what it actually is. That someone makes a platformer, and they go, well, I'm jumping, therefore it's a platformer, and it's like you're nudging off edges, and you have this slow jump, and you're like, where's your soft collision? Like, what's soft collision? Although DuckTales has no soft collision, so you didn't hear me say that. But it's things like that where you can really it's easy to underestimate like how complicated these games were, and how elegant they can be. So I never thought of it as a crutch at all. I think we were given plenty of creative freedom, and it was a lot of fun to work with, and it was everyone enjoyed it immensely.
Awesome. And like I said, it definitely comes through. Like, and the tutorial level, I loved it because it was short, and you gave me the opportunity to hear the Beagle Boys talk a lot. And I was just like, this is great. And those little nephews, freaking adorable. And it felt like little tiny boss fights along the way where you had a small puzzle to solve, but it never bogged you down. And then that last boss, actually, he kind of kicked my ass the first time.
Yeah?
It's pretty tough. Yeah.
That's good.
But in a fair way, because it made me have to really think quickly about what trajectory the projectile was coming at. So it was like a high-low guessing game. It almost gave me like a fighting game feel for a moment, which was fun and a surprise. And any extra content I was just eating up because I was excited to see what new stuff you were given the opportunity to make. So do you feel like, because with this project, you've got the Disney name on it, so you've got the Disney people expecting Disney-level animation, which is really interesting that they don't even do 2D animation anymore. So this is like could be the last 2D Ducktales thing ever, which is incredible. But you've got that expectation coming at you from that direction. You've got the people who remembered the original game as like one of the only licensed games that was actually, well, Batman was good, but it was one of the few really good licensed games on the NES. So you've got their rose-tinted glasses to deal with, and you've got the expectation of this kind of modern 2D platformer renaissance that's going on right now. You got games like Spelunky and VVVVV and all these new games that took kind of the essence of what was started back in the NES days with platforming and have evolved it. So you've got this expectation from those people. How did it feel to have all of those eyes at you? And now that the game is out, how has it felt to get all of their responses? That's not a hard question. It's easy.
Actually, I don't know if it is a hard question. I expect it harder from you.
Really?
It's only hard because no. The only thing that's hard about it is it's a really long question, and there's so much there's just like I could go on for an hour just talking about this itself because
please do if you want.
No, I feel like there's so many other things we can talk about. So I want to keep it short and just say that it wasn't easy, but I guess you don't try to work in my position or work in games without kind of expecting it or kind of hoping to face it to kind of come out on top in the end. And in this day and age where there are so many talented people out there and you have the internet and people can, I mean, you look back at the work, the art from Star Wars like McQuarrie, and just it's like, wow, like there was he's such an amazing painter, there was no one like him. But today there's thousands of people who are just as amazing as McQuarrie because of just having the opportunity to have access to technology and have access to be able to do these things. That there are so many amazingly talented people out there, and there's such a breadth of art these days that you will always have people that don't like your work. There's never going to be a universal appreciation of what you do, because there's always going to be someone that doesn't like it. It's just of taste. I mean, but you like there's kind of when you go to art school, when you are an artist and people artistically, there is kind of a mutual respect of, I don't like that style, but I'm not going to be a total like mean person and be like, you're an idiot if you like that, or it's like the Call of Duty versus Battlefield kind of thing. It's like gamers getting this really childish mentality of what if you like one, you can't like the other kind of thing. But there's tons of things. There's tons of amazing art and amazing talented people out there, and everyone can see it and everyone can have a voice. So you're going to hear everyone's opinion. If the internet was around in the mid '80s the way it is today, you probably see the same kind of flaming on DuckTales, back then kind of stuff. It's like, oh, the animation's crap. Like, it's not as good as Heathcliff, that kind of stuff, So, so it's hard, but you get used to it. You get used to it quick, and it's just like, I mean, Jim Sterling said on Podtoid a couple weeks ago when he was talking about Phil Fish and how Jim Sterling had to sort of create a new persona and just get used to it and move along from it. You just have to accept it and not read the comments and take it one day at a time and just try to find a way to not let it get to you, and just make what you want to make, because that's ultimately, if you're an artist and why are you making art? If you're in games, why are you making games? Are you making games because you want to make a group of people who've never met you happy? It's like, well, I've made these teenage boys happy with the games so they can go, be mean to other people about the crappy games they make, or do you make it for yourself? Because the act of making something, anyone who's an artist who makes art of any kind can tell you that seeing art and enjoying art is different than making art, and it's a very different experience. And games are the same way. Like, making a game isn't the same as playing a game, and there is a certain kind of catharsis from making a game, and it's just such a weird experience, but it can be so rewarding and fun. But it's a different kind of rewarding from playing a game. So, like I said, I could go on forever about this. But, in the end, if you love playing games, don't expect making games to be the same thing, because it's not. Mm-hmm. Like if you love eating hamburgers, like working at a ground beef factory, like go work at the ground beef factory. Like it isn't the same thing.
Not the same thing. It's not as clear cut when you win. For certain. Like, I hope you feel like you won at the end of DuckTales, but it's not as simple as winning and losing, I would imagine. When I say the end of DuckTales.
It's not. No, it's not as simple as winning and losing, but I feel like we won, definitely. It's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. Yeah, I'm really happy with it. I'm gonna be sad. Like it's all surreal. I haven't had a chance to sort of stop and think about it. I try to every now and then. It's like, okay, so I'm in the recording booth with Alan Young. I'm talking to the voice of Scrooge McDuck. June Foray, who does Magic at Dispel, she was Rocky from Rocky and Bullwinkle, and she was Granny from the WB cartoons in the 40s. She's like the only other voice besides Mel Blanc in those cartoons back then. Yes, she's in her mid 90s as well, and she was amazing. Russi Taylor, who does Minnie Mouse, also does the nephews, and she was so much fun because she doesn't get a chance to do the nephews very often anymore. So she was just having a blast. Frank Welker, Chuck McCann, like these are just awesome people. So it's just like it was really 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 cool. And 10 years from now, I'm gonna miss it. I'm gonna look back on it like, oh my God, that was such a good time. That was such a good time. So I feel really lucky.
Yeah, what do you think you could do next that would one-up this, or at least feel like it's on the same trajectory? Is there any ideas you've got? Like,
there's one game. If I got to remaster The Adventures of Bayou Billy, that would be pretty amazing.
Whoa.
Or what's another game? Oh God, what would be really cool? I can't think of any others. That's the one that would take the cake, right?
That would be, maybe it's the perfect time for it, because Bayou Billy
seriously.
was...
No, you know what? Actually, the Adventures in the Magic Kingdom. That game was awesome, and it was so cool that got featured in Nintendo Force, because that was a game I actually really liked a lot as a kid. But I guess they did the Disney Connect Adventures, so that wasn't that sort of took over for that. But
did that have a cowboy in it?
Yeah. You played as a cowboy. I think he had like an Australian hat that had the one side that goes up. And if you don't enter a name at the beginning, your name defaults to Bamboo 7, which is pretty cool. So at the company we call it Adventures of the Magic Kingdom starring Bamboo 7, which should be pretty cool. God, actually, but the Adventures of Batman and Robin would be cool, or maybe the Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle and Friends. Yeah, or Adventure Island. That might be pretty cool.
Sure.
Some other guys are telling me to do one called Adventures of Lolo. Man, that sounds kind of dumb. I don't know. I wouldn't want to do that game. So
there's a lot of Lolo talk, as you know, lately.
I know.
Lolo activity.
It's overrated. It's really overrated. So remastering that would just be a waste of time. No, so yeah, all those great jokes aside, if I had a chance to work on something else, I don't know. I can't even think about it right now, because like my brain is still in DuckTales land. It's hard to get out of it. Are you thinking like if I had a chance to like remaster another game, remaster, or like remake, or take on another brand? Or
I'm always curious about, as I've gotten to know your personality, I am excited to see an idea that's pure Austin Ivansmith from beginning to end into this world. A video idea. You've worked on Mighty Switch Force HD. You did excellent write-up on the character design and direction you did on Thor, on the DS. You've done a lot of great stuff. Don't get me wrong, but I want more Austin Ivansmith. That's what I want.
Well, you're just gonna have to wait and see. You're just gonna have to wait and see because you're gonna get more Austin Ivansmith, Jonathan Holmes. You're gonna get it.
I look forward to that.
Yeah, cool. I mean, I'm actually the way. I have a few ideas in my head. I've always got lots of stories in my head. I have some that I would never actually want to make a video game of because I think they'd work better as film or a comic. When I want to make a game, as funny as it is with the whole DuckTales thing, someone asked me recently, like if you got to make your ultimate game, what would it be? And I think I'd want to make something that resonates the way Portal does, where you're introduced in a world and there's a narrative, given to you through the world itself, and your things unfold in a unique way. And that's how I feel. That's what I love about Portal and recently Papers, Please. Like I'm really, really getting a kick out of Papers, Please. So I make something that's like that, but I want to make something that's multiplayer. Like I think it'd be just so much fun because some of my best memories of video gaming are just playing games with my friends, playing Nintendo 64, especially playing Super Smash Brothers and Excite Bike 64, and Win Back. Like the Metal Gear Solid ripoff that actually had a pretty fun multiplayer mode. I think that'd be great.
That would be awesome, and hopefully all those opportunities will happen. But it's impossible. I'd imagine in your position, these games are so time-consuming to make that all of your ideas, it's impossible. There's just not enough time in your life to make them all, at least at the moment, unless game development gets so much easier and cheaper somehow someday, which I suppose it could. Do you already have a new project signed to you through Wayfor?
I can't tell you that.
You can't even believe this is an assignment?
I can't. No, it's non-disclosure agreements, man. Everything is secret. Everything is secret. Everything. Yeah. I can't tell you anything about it.
And you couldn't. It was scary. I was scared about even asking you to be on the show because I know DuckTales. Are you still in a non-disclosure agreement about DuckTales? Or you're allowed to talk now about everything?
I mean, I can talk about just about everything. I mean, we talk about everything at all the E3 and Comic-Con. It's like it's a press thing.
Sure.
Press can ask questions. We can answer questions.
Yeah, it's an interesting relationship that you end up forming with the publisher, though, in that I don't know, I would feel uncomfortable being watched that often because they really were keeping an eye on what you were doing, I'd imagine.
They were, but I mean, I've been watched closer in the future. Capcom were amazing. Both Capcom and Disney. Like they gave us a lot of creative freedom on the project. They gave us some parameters and said make a game that fits within these parameters. And other than that, they were pretty open-ended. It's just like, well, what do you guys think? Like you're the game developers. They put a lot of trust in us. They said you have a great track record of making great games. Like, what do you think this should play as? You can run into a lot of producers who at times will say that'll just throw their weight around. Sometimes just it seems like to throw their weight around, but no one at Capcom and no one at Disney ever did that, like ever. And that was amazing. It was a great working relationship. So it was awesome.
That's good to hear. And I feel badly personally. I feel badly for Capcom a lot of the time these days, especially in the past couple of years, because for some reason it's sort of trendy to dislike them. People feel good about themselves for saying they are a Capcom fan who now hates Capcom, which depresses me personally. I don't agree with all the decisions Capcom's made in the past couple of years, but I think just announcing that I'll play another Capcom game again because I'm mad at something they did a couple of years ago isn't really going to make my life any better. It certainly isn't going to cause Capcom to make better games, so that's where I come from on that. Did you get the sense that part of... Well, I'll just ask more open-endedly. What do you think drove them to want to make this DuckTales project at all? Because, like you said, it has been something Disney has been touting lately. Scrooge McDuck hasn't been in any Disney media in a while, and for Capcom, the 2D platformer hasn't been something they've been focusing on quite as much lately. So where do you think it came from, the impetus to go back to DuckTales?
Yeah, I don't know exactly. I know that Ray at Capcom said that they did a survey at Capcom Unity some time back, and it was one of the most asked for games. And if you look at sales of NES games, it was their top-selling NES title, I believe. It sold more than Mega Man 2. So it was a big game, and like companies go and they look at a list of like what's available and just what might work, and it's just how things go sometimes. We've done stuff like that in the past. I think that's Boy and His Blob was a similar thing. Like, oh, we just got a license for this or whatever, or we contacted them like, hey, we see you just got the license for Boy and His Blob. What if we made that? And they go, oh, that's a cool idea. It just takes one person. Usually, it just takes one person with an idea, and they run it up the chain. And if it just makes sense, it makes sense. And I guess it just made sense for DuckTales right now. Something just clicked with making it work. So. I really don't know. Like that happens in a whole other way of things go that is all business related, and I stick to just doing the arts and making the games, doing the development side. So
sure. It did come out of, it was a huge surprise when it was announced. I think.
Thank God it was a huge surprise.
Yeah, you kept it secret, and I remember when I heard the announcement and found out you were working on it, and I freaked out because it felt so perfect for what video games needed at the moment, what people wanted to feel. It's so the opposite of what everyone has been burnt out on lately, and at least in the people who write about video games and the people comment about video games on video game blogs, there's constant just, I'm so sick of, what is it going to be this? It's crossbows this year. Everyone's just shooting each other with crossbows. Oh, now it's killing people on a ship instead of killing people on the ground. It's just been such a muddy, sort of dead world lately in video games. And hey, remember Dials? And everyone just completely flips out. And you, of course, saw the PAX East response when it was shown there. People just screaming their head off the theme song, like hurting themselves, getting hoarse and damaged because they couldn't control their enthusiasm for what they were seeing. So it was a very wise move to bring it out now. But of course, I was just worried that fighting people's nostalgia seems like just such a possible battle. The only way you could do it is by putting true, genuine love into the thing and putting new ideas in that fit to how people's old perceptions of it were, which is what you did, of course. All right, now I need to segue into a question of some kind.
Well, it's funny. Yeah? It's funny you put it that way because when I was at the recording studio, and the actress who played Mrs. Beakley passed away in the '90s, I believe, and when they hired Wendy Lee, who most people probably know as Faye Valentine from Cowboy Bebop, to play Mrs. Beakley for our game, when they started playing the old recordings of it. It was like, wow, that doesn't sound like what I remember. It sounded different than I remembered, So, and I've heard a couple pieces like that doesn't sound like Mrs. Beakley. But then when you're in the recording booth and Wendy Lee does her impression, of Mrs. Beakley, and it sounds like almost spot on. It's like, wow, like you might watch it and go, oh, she sounds nothing like that. I think the same thing happened when people in the office are hearing Burger Beagle, and they're like, oh, who'd they get to do this? He sounds nothing like the guy. I'm like, no, that's the guy. And it's like, well, he sounds different. It's like, well, that's probably because you think he should sound like Curly from the Three Stooges, because when you get 15 years later, 20 years later, it's like, this doesn't sound like I remember, but you actually go back and watch it, and they were playing clips for the actors for them to calibrate and get back into it, and it's like, wow, that's what he sounds like. That's weird. I remember him sounding a little bit different. So it's kind of interesting how I would hope that, and when talking back on the review thing, I would hope that anyone who is being really critical of our game compared to the NES one has played the NES one recently, because we were playing the NES one, while we were making the game, going back to it a lot. So there's things that they did in the NES game where it's like, they did that in there. It's like, all right, and like someone would go and play it, and they're just like, ugh, like this is weird. It's like that in the NES game. It's like, okay, well, should we change it or keep it? And so and one of the things we actually did was we made the pogo balance more forgiving on steps. So you have to accurately line up the pogo with during the pogo jump with a step, and we made it just like the NES game, and everyone in the office that played it said, it's too hard. It's too hard to pogo in your ledges. And so we made like the area for pogoing a little wider, So
Huh.
our game is actually more forgiving for the pogo bounce on corners. You know, you can still get taken out of it if you miss, but it's not as mean. So, yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and it's those kinds of things that people, like you said, they really need to go back and play it before they start. As any assessment people have made,
You'd just
been
be
negative.
surprised. You'd be
Yeah.
surprised how your memory will trick you over the years. You know, you'll remember something different than how it actually happened. Like they've done studies recently that said that people can create false memories. You know, so
Oh, sure. Absolutely,
there
they
you
can.
go. Yeah.
And it's something that's been, I guess, more in the past 15 years or so, a real part of video gaming, where people say a game hasn't aged well. I'm always annoying and point out, no, you haven't aged well. Like, that game hasn't changed at all. In 20 years, Doom still looks like Doom, but your perception and your standards and what you can take in and enjoy has changed. And maybe your standards, some would say they've gotten better, some they've gotten worse, but don't blame it on the game, because it's still the same game it's always been. Questions came in from people, like Kaz the Gamer Guy, who asks, when will we learn more about Shantae and the Pirate's Curse? That's not your game, but that is a game.
That's
made
not
by
my
guys
game.
you know.
You will learn more about Shantae and the Pirate's Curse very, very soon. In fact, there's this guy, his name's Matt Bozon, who's going to be coming on this show on September 8th, I believe.
I think so. Yeah, week after PAX.
And so when I was on the show back in February, the first time, I had the big reveal of Mighty Switch Force for everybody, Mighty Switch Force 2. Matt's going to be on here to talk about Shantae and the Pirate's Curse, and he's got some other things to talk about. So look forward to that. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Whoa, that's in 3 short weeks. Thanks, Austin.
That is in 3 short weeks. So have fun with that show, because he's going to have a lot of neat things to talk about. So keep your eyes peeled.
I need you to come and tell me what is going to happen on my show every week, because I had no idea to talk about maybe things. That's very exciting. I had no idea about the Switch Force 2 reveal when you did that. That was very.
I know that was fun, because we knew we'd hoped it'd be coming out before June. We were hoping to be out in April, so we thought it'd be just like a fun little reveal and get it out there. And I think it was fun. I think it was neat to be able to say that. I wish I had something to reveal now. I do have a Steam download code to share. I don't know if now is a good time for that, or I don't know if you guys have.
Yeah, sure. Surprise him. I say go for it. Or I don't know if you're doing that. If Sinistar is.
I think Sinistar is doing that.
He's going to surprise us then. He's surprising.
Yeah. So
part of his job.
I don't know if Sinistar is going to, or if he's going to announce it, or whatever.
He'll yell at us when it happens.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it already happened.
Sinistar sounds weird.
I know.
Beware, bad cold.
Oh, you rascal.
So anyway.
Hyperobic. I'm sorry, Hyperobic. Said your name wrong. Wants to know about the secret ending in Ducktales Remastered. I know of no such secret. I know about the if you enter in, I think it's a Street Fighter 2 code, you get to hear the original music, which is great. I love the work that Vert did on the remastered soundtrack, but the original one has its place too. So that's a secret I knew. But there's another secret? A secret ending? Really?
I don't think so. I don't think there's a secret ending.
Really? I wonder what he's talking about. Are there any sorts of secrets? There must be some secrets we don't know about yet.
I mean, there's some nods, like in African Mines. Anyone who's played the African Mines and not shortcutted the African Mines, will see a couple cool nods in there. Like there's obviously the lock sitting at the front so you don't have to go to Transylvania. I watched a Let's Play and someone's like, "Hey, it's that lock! There's that lock in the background. I don't got to go to Transylvania." Oh, that's cool. And I wanted to keep watching to see when they got to the seesaw, because the seesaw was like the seesaw. When I played it as a kid, I never saw the seesaw because I always took the path to the right. But if you take the long path where the nephews get dropped into an abyss in their minecart, and you keep going, you come across a seesaw. Webby tells you to use the seesaw, and you get flung over these pits. So we took the seesaw out, but you see it in the background there. But I'm just curious to see the internet go abuzz with who beats the game on expert. I'll just say that. That's all. I'll leave it at that. But we don't have multiple endings, but because there's like everyone's focused on the multiple ending thing, that is something we decided to cut because with the voice acting and having multiple stories, the focus of the game wasn't as much on gathering the money in a score-driven NES arcade-style game, beat the clock, collect the most money kind of thing, and recording two endings we thought was a little kind of arbitrary, especially the different difficulties have different levels of money being given, so we just stuck with one ending for the game. So, but there's so many other things to do. If you're on PC, PS3, or Xbox, you got achievements and trophies, and then if you're on Wii U, you have your off TV play. They all have leaderboards, so there's other things to get a kick out of there.
Oh, sure, absolutely, and there's a lot of new content. I was really glad you added the money bin, by the way. That added such a touch of care and also just a feeling of really being Scrooge McDuck. Like
and what's really I'm sorry. I apologize that I interrupt you all the time. I
I don't at all.
There's a lag. There's a lag in the video, so sometimes I think you're at the end of your sentence. But I'm gonna keep going. So that wasn't in the original game design document either. It was just we wanted a hub world, and we thought, Scrooge's office is where the computer is in one of the episodes of the show, and so we thought, okay, we'll end up in the hub world, and so we built it out, and we get there. And you just see this big money bin door back there, and it's like, man, it'd be really cool if we could go in there, right, guys? And it's like, yeah, we should really go in there. It's like, yeah, we should go in there. And then I think we were close to alpha, and it wasn't in the cards, and it's like, it's gonna be a tight squeeze to just make this and get it in there, and we did. And looking back, it's like, wow, I can't believe that we didn't think about that earlier, or that there's a possibility that might never have happened, because that is such a big deal for a lot of people. For a lot of people, if you go on Miiverse and just look at all the pictures, like half of them are just people going, "Oh my God, I'm in the money bin! Look at this!" And so people just diving in the money bin. So it's just you see like money bin thumbnails down the whole page, and it does rise. It does rise higher and higher as you collect money. I think 100 million is the cap to get it to its highest point. So I'm really excited to see Miiverse pictures where people have spent or people have earned 100 million and their money bin is absolutely full.
Yeah, I look forward to that too. I think I'll do it myself. Hopefully I'll have the time to get that up there. Speaking of the different platforms it's on, do you have any feeling about which one it's the best home for, or was one platform more difficult than the other to develop for? Any kind of differentiation there that you feel strongly about in any way?
No, I don't have a differentiation for myself. I feel like Capcom, one of the biggest priorities for Capcom was parity, just making sure everything was as equal as possible, that not one console got features beyond what another console might. So and that's one of the reasons why we don't have a platinum achievement in our platinum trophy on Steam, is because, well, we could have either cut some of the achievements out for PS3, but we thought, well, we don't want less trophies for PS3, so we had to crunch the numbers to make it all add up to the minimum requirement for trophies, and so it was really trying to keep everything as even as possible, and in playing them, even up to the last minute, it's like they all played like almost the same, so it's kind of hard to tell. It's really like, what's your controller preference? I would say. And do you need achievements or trophies, or do you want to play, or do you want off-screen play? Because it can be pretty cool to just, for anyone that owns a Wii U knows, to be able to not have to turn your TV on, lounge on the couch, and play it like it's a Game Boy or whatever. So.
Absolutely, yeah, and I've heard a lot of, for whatever reason, it's being closely associated with the Wii U brand. Like a lot of people are saying, like, time to finally bust out the Wii U, Ducktales is out, which is nice, but I'm thinking, like, you could be playing it on something else if you want. It's a strange
probably the history.
Yeah.
It's probably the history with it being on the Nintendo console, and Nintendo has some of the best D-pads out there. They have they have great control, so I feel like a lot of the D-pads on Nintendo consoles are sometimes the best.
Yeah, that's a good point. Was it
but the
hard
analog in the game, I want to say just real fast that the analog in the game plays really well though too. I was surprised, just for anyone who just plays with analog, give it a try, and it plays surprisingly well. For something that you would think would only play good on digital.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the whole world, though you stayed very true to the more digital, very pixel by pixel timings and jumps from the original. The overall analog feel that comes from hand drawn definitely adds to that. I think makes it feel smoother on analog, more natural. But was it hard at all to make it for the Wii U? I know that Capcom has had trouble for whatever reason getting one of their games over to the Wii U that's already on PS3 and 360. Dungeons and Dragons, something of Mystery. I reviewed it, but I already forgot the name. That hasn't come out on Wii U yet, so that made me wonder if that was a more challenging platform to program for whatever reason.
Yeah, I'm not a programmer, so I can't speak to that. It's just consoles are getting more and more complicated. They're getting more and more complex. There's so many more moving parts. There's so many, pathways for how memory and images and everything are sent. That if a company builds up their internal game pipeline to work with one type of engine or with one type of like processor. I know if my engine guys are watching right now, they're just like, oh, come on, like why are you trying to answer this? but I mean, they're all different. They're all just like different languages almost, So you just gotta kind of familiarize yourself with it, and they're all just different. So it just might not be something they're used to yet, and they just need to whoever the developer is just need a little time with whatever hiccups. But
right. But
yeah,
Wayfor-gust worked on everything at this point. You guys have done 360, PS3, PC, yeah.
Vita.
So that helps.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that's right. Being good at making the games is helpful. XKX asks. Oh, I'm sorry. XKevX asks. Do you have any stories about being in poverty and almost living on the streets before making it big in the industry? What a specific and pointed question. So tell us, Austin. Do you have any?
I think that might have been might be a real question based on a joke someone was saying about how we should have changed Ducktales. I think it was a the fake Peter Molyneux tweet.
Oh, Molyneux, I think.
Yeah, that I tweeted where Peter Molyneux said, I told them the way they should have made the game was about how Scrooge was poor on the streets and got back. Yeah, whatever. It was a funny tweet. No, I wasn't poor on the street. So I was just I was a guy who had to pay my own way through college and worked my butt off and worked at companies and got laid off and worked valet parking cars in between jobs, and then was a tester for a while and then went back, became an artist again, and just elbow grease, my friend. Just be a nice guy, elbow grease, work hard, make friends. And don't stop believing. There you go.
That was very nice. I appreciate it. And that's all I got. True facts. That's all you can speak. And there are a bunch of questions I was going to ask you, but they're in your Nintendo Force interview for people who are interested. Austin did this very nice interview with Nintendo Force Magazine, issue 4, where we talked about all sorts of things. I asked all these questions. I think some of them didn't get in, unfortunately. I don't have much to do with that. I just send the emails, really.
No, a lot of it got in, and I made a joke because the one thing I said about secrets is that the thing that's more important than secrets in life is dreaming friends. And that didn't make it in, and I was like, oh no, that one line, that was like, I was so happy. And then whoever runs the tweet for Nintendo Force is like, Austin Ivansmith is unhappy that his wordy interview didn't get more words in there. I'm like, no, don't get me wrong. Like, we need an Austin Ivansmith Force magazine, because I when I was answering the questions, I said, man, I'm writing a lot. I feel bad whoever's going to edit this, and they were pretty much all there. I'm like, holy crap, that's like pretty much everything I wrote. Good luck to people reading. They don't hurt their eyes having to read so many letters. But
no, it's great. I was enthralled with it personally.
Yeah,
it's a pretty good issue this time. Oh, anytime. One of the questions we did ask in there that I guess I'll ask here, just for funsies, I thought it was interesting that Warren Spector had talked so much about wanting to make a DuckTales game, and he's been in the industry for, I'm not sure, 30 years maybe. And then you just got to make it. That if I were you, I would have, like, not that you're not a big deal as well, but it would have been kind of like, your popular band that's new on the charts, it's doing pretty well. Suddenly they have you star in the Beatles movie instead of, like, Paul McCartney doesn't get to be in it. You get in it. Like he was. I went to Disneyland with freaking Warren Spector. He was like ranting out the wonder of Disney to me for like an hour and a half. And then you got to make it the game that he wanted to make. Did you feel feelings about that?
I mean, I've just got 4 words. Suck it, Warren Spector. No. If you read the magazine interview, the thing I feel is a bit of survivor's guilt because I'd really want to see what he would do with the DuckTales brand. And I saw an interview with him on IGN after he knew that we were making the game, and he was asked the question, "What would you do with a DuckTales game?" And the way he answered it was great because. The way he answered it. That sounds so backstabby. What he said was awesome because what he would do with the game, I think, is very similar to what I'd want to do with the game. Where it's like if we were given another DuckTales game that wasn't the NES game, where you'd want to explore, what the relationship is with Scrooge and the nephews, because one of the things about the NES game is it's not really DuckTales, it's more just the adventures of Scrooge McDuck, because when you watch the show, like Launchpad and the nephews and Webby and Mrs. Beakley they're integral. It is an ensemble thing. It's about all the characters, what's the episode, Sir Gyro de Gearloose, where Gyro, Gearloose, and the nephews go back in time, and I don't think Scrooge is in it hardly at all, and so it's just it's about everybody, and he said that, and I'm like, yeah, definitely, I'd love to see that, and I'm really curious to see what he thinks about the game. I'd love to know, because I know that he actually, I guess when we were in super early talks, he was involved, and so he was there talking with our creative director, and the two of them were just yammering about like ideas and like what makes games great, and the way people who were at the conversation tell it was like 2 like old school modems, 56K modems, just communicating back and forth, like just like because they're just going so fast. But I'd like to think that like DuckTales was in the right hands, because our creative director, he was Disney trained, at Cal Arts, and I myself, if you met me when I was like 12 or 13, like I was the biggest Disney nerd out of everyone I knew, and working at Disney was my dream. So so DuckTales is kind of a dream come true, like as well, because it's brought back so many memories. Like I feel like if I was that, but a lot of it has left my brain since becoming a teenager and just meeting girls and doing stupid things. But when I was if the 12 or 13-year-old Austin went to Disneyland with Warren Spector, I'd be like debating with him, or like I'd be trying to like beat him to the punch. I'm like, oh well, that's this, and he'd go, yes it is, kid, but did you know it's this? And I'm like, oh yeah, well I knew that, but did you know this? Like, so I think I'd love to talk to him, because I think we'd have fun, chatting about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you two would get along very well, and he does want to challenge Warren Spector. I got the sense he doesn't want to just sit back, as so many game developers do. I don't know any game developers who are the kind of person who wants the game to be played for them or wants to be shown exactly how to do everything. It seems to be something in your DNA that makes you want to take on a challenge, deal with the unknown, put yourself out there, and take those risks where everything could potentially fall apart, but until you try, and you just keep trying. It's something pretty special about your breed, Austin.
It's the nature of creativity. I mean, that's like anyone who wants to be a writer, be be a visual artist, be a dancer. Like you wanna explore new things. You wanna try things. It's just in the nature of the creative mind, and that's what can be so rewarding and so fun and so challenging is when it pays off, when it works, and it can be so crippling and so debilitating when it doesn't, because you just think that everything's hopeless and you have no talent, and it's rough because it's that unknown when you're not hitting it right. It's rough, but that's the creative types, man. You just keep trying that stuff.
Sure, it's part of the process to kind of hit notes that you didn't mean to hit, but only by doing that will you be able to hit the ones that you meant to eventually. Which
that's well put.
Oh, I guess so. I don't know. Thank you for saying so. Scrooge McDuck is a character.
Yes, he is.
I'm hoping Yeah, I
Sorry.
hope more people get to know him because he's in playing the game. I'm just taken aback by how interesting it is to see his, like, on one end, I got to do the right thing. On the other end, he's just like, I just want that money. And when when he suddenly has to, when he gets fed money, the amount of gluttony that comes across, glee and gluttony comes across so well in the way you've expressed it in the game. But at the same time, he wants to save his nephews and be like not a total dick. But at the other end, I'm sorry.
He's very good natured, and he cares deeply. He cares deeply about family, and he cares about the nephews, and he always has. And but he'll take the money along the way if he can get it. So he's really, that's what makes Scrooge amazing. He's a very, very complex character. He's very deep, and he's not so one-sided with the money, and that's what made him so endearing. These many years later, he's an amazing character.
Yeah, he's not one-dimensional at all, even though people expect out of a simple Disney character. That's the kind of stigma around Disney, is the character's usually one or two-dimensional, but there's a lot more to him than that. He can even feel villainous, which makes it more interesting when he ends up being the hero, to me anyway. And you know what?
That's just when Glomgold's dressed up as him. That wasn't him.
Oh, I know, but they're so similar. That's the thing about it. The evil Scrooge is just Scrooge with a beard. Like, they're so close to the same guy, but they're, in fact, totally different. That's how I see it, anyway. I'm getting all Tales existential now. I forgot to... For people who've never played DuckTales, we've talked about how it's a platformer, but now, unless they haven't played it already, bought it while they were listening to it, maybe we should explain to them how the game is structured and what kind of game it really is, because it's not a Mario style, just go through the levels, left to right platformer, but it's not quite a Metroid style game either. It exists in kind of a mix of those two, where the pogo mechanic, like you discussed, is really integral to how everything feels. Like, right. In some ways, it feels like just an excuse to use this really awesome mechanic, but structurally, there's a lot of interesting things going on there. So please,
well, the original game, the original NES game, I think felt just kind of like a haphazard rush, to the boss, like get to the boss as fast as you can, kind of game.
Because the time limit on it.
Exactly. There was 500. I think it was 500 seconds. So you had to rush to get to the boss, but then there was also money everywhere. So it was kind of like, it was almost like it's a trick where it's like, haha, you're gonna run out of time, but I guess it's more the resource management of time over money. But a lot of the stages, African mines and Amazon and Himalayas are all about, and even Transylvania, it's about when you know how to get to the boss the fastest, just getting to the boss the fastest. It's like, what's the shortest route? With Amazon, it really is. So at the beginning, you have two paths to choose from. So which one's gonna be harder for you? The one with spikes and the bees, or the one underground with spikes on the ceiling? Pick your poison kind of thing. But with the moon was the only level in the game that had more of a fetch quest style, gameplay, where you had to get three pieces, or you had to get three objects to then summon Gizmo Duck and have him open the door that would lead you into the underground and take you to the boss area. Capcom wanted us to make a game that wasn't something that was intentionally or accidentally speedrun by people who are playing it for the first time, where they get through a level in 3 minutes and go, well, what just happened? Did I beat the stage? I missed everything. Did I miss everything? And then you don't really know. And so there's a lot of really neat design in the original game, and so we turned all the levels into for more or less fetch quest style. The first half of Amazon is more fetch questy, and then the rest of it's more straightforward. African Mines only has one area where it's just like walk all the way to the right and come back with the key, and then from there on it's just a straight path all the way through. But in the original game, it was all 5 levels are unlocked. Choose them in any order you want, but anyone who knows the original would go to Transylvania and Himalayas first to get the extra little heart container, little extra circle, so you get 5 health instead of 3, because then it's easier to beat the other levels and then beat the bosses, and then beat the final boss. With our game, we wanted something that had a great introduction, introduce you to the character, introduce you to the world. We went with Mega Man X, Super Metroid style. Well, it's more Mega Man X style, intro, where you get a short short level, and then you brought to the hub world, and then from there you choose one of the 5 levels from the original game. And instead of going back to Transylvania another time like we did in NES, we said, well, we need another level, and with the story, since Magica and Glomgold are central to the story, we had and Magica has this iconic location. It's like, let's go to Mount Vesuvius. So we go to Mount Vesuvius, which is Magica's hideout, for the final stage, and for what I think is a really really fun final level. And then after you beat the game, you can play any of the levels that you want. If there's one level you love more than the others, you can play it over and over again and just try to get your money up all the way. Or you can start a new game and you keep your money and you keep your gallery unlocks and just keep playing the game. So that's kind of the structure of the game itself.
And people should know that the amount of gallery unlocks, Jesus, that is a lot of. I'm never gonna get all that. I want it all. It's
you can get it all. You can get it all, and then all the songs are in there too, and even and I'm sure Jake will talk about it more next week when he's on the show. Our musician Jake Kaufman, he'll talk about all that, but there's NES versions there's 8-bit versions of the new songs that we made for the new levels in the game. So and you can listen to those in the gallery if you want. So it's pretty awesome.
I didn't know that. That is awesome.
Oh, so you haven't been playing the game then, huh, buddy? So I see how it is.
I have been. How do I unlock that sweet stuff? Maybe I've just been too busy.
You beat the game. Not me. You beat the game to unlock 8-bit mode. Have you beaten the game yet, Jonathan?
It's too hard. It's hard. I'm not playing on easy. I'm playing on expert. It's hard.
Oh, what? Okay. Well, yeah. Play it on normal. Play it on normal first, and get some heart containers, because we didn't think it was actually harder. It's really funny because it's so subjective. There's people that are like, what are you talking about? The NES game wasn't hard at all. And some people are like, yes, the NES game was one of the toughest games I ever played. And so it's all over the place with like, is it hard or not? And we did not set out to make a game that was harder than the NES game. We set out to make a game that was equal, if not easier. Normal mode is supposed to be a little easier than the normal mode on the NES game. And for anyone who goes to Transylvania and Himalayas to get the heart container first, to get that extra heart, yeah, it is a little easier, because once you get those, and the other thing is, there's heart containers in the other 3 levels also. So on normal, you can have 8 hearts. So that kind of offsets the lives, and you always start with a minimum number of lives in the level. If you only have 1 life left and you beat the level and you go to start a new one, you're bumped up to 3 right away, because it makes no sense to die on 1 life, get kicked back to the hub world, and then start with 3 again. In a game these days where there's for a mode where there's no true game over, but there is true game over in expert. So it's been kind of entertaining, but I feel kind of bad when I've been watching streams of people play expert mode and get to Mount Vesuvius and then die on the final chase and get a game over, and it's like, wow, that's nuts. But it's like, well, I hope they appreciate that it's an expert, because I saw a guy beat it right after that too. He died and he had to play the whole game over again, but he beat it. So I'd like to think that's a big sense of accomplishment for him. It shouldn't.
Hopefully, if I do it.
Yeah.
Someday. It's hard. Yeah. I have a mentality that if I don't
practice on normal. Practice.
I don't know. It feels like eating. But you're right. I will take it from the director of the actual game how I should maybe play it, because you would know. But I always have this instinct that if I don't play in the hardest level, I'm going to miss something. Like, that's the thing about choosing a difficulty in the beginning. I don't know if we talked about this before, but you're kind of choosing like how much game you're going to get a little bit. At least that's how I've always felt about it. And if I always feel worried that I'm going to miss out on some design ideas when I go with the easier difficulties, because I know that kind of the more challenges in the game, the more design ideas you had to put in to implement those challenges. So I would go with hardest and sometimes regret it.
Yeah, I know what you mean, because I feel the same way when I start a game at the beginning, where it's like, am I going to regret choosing too easy of a level? But you shouldn't feel that way with this. Like, to anyone that's like, I can only beat it on expert. It's like, well, no, go ahead and beat it on normal, and then work your way up, because it's one of those things where once you get used to it, there's still a challenge on hard and expert. So, but I mean, if you're looking for like something that's the closest to the NES experience, play it on hard mode. The other thing with the checkpoints is there's a checkpoint for every single room you enter. So whereas the original NES game only had like 2 checkpoints per stage, one at the very start of the stage and one in the middle somewhere randomly. But we have when you die on normal and hard and easy, whenever you die, you go back to the room you entered, the way you entered it, climbing a rope, walking in from the side. So, I'd like to think it's fairly forgiving.
Oh, sure. It feels totally fair, and it doesn't feel like there's any unnecessary backtracking. But with that game on Expert, like you said, getting to the end, which took me a little while, and I was really excited and surprised to see the new last level. Then I just died on it hard. It's pretty hard.
It's really hard to go through the first time, especially if you're going to play it on Expert. Oh, man.
Yeah, but it's a good feeling to have that option, to be able to do that. Is there anything, I don't know if you think this loftily about your games, but if I were you, I probably would, because I think lofty of myself, suppose. But if you were, when you made Tales and you finished it, and people, you were thinking about how it was going to affect people and what they thought about video games and what they thought about games they could make or games they should be playing. Did you have any ideas about how it would affect people beyond just being like a diversion, like a fun, 8 hours or so to enjoy? Did you think, oh, this is going to cause people to appreciate this or that, or think about video games in this way? Did any of those thoughts ever cross your mind?
No, not really. I think the bigger thing I wanted people to appreciate was just being reintroduced to DuckTales again. Just getting something new with DuckTales. I think that was the bigger focus. That and I think like staying true to the NES game. I think I was more worried about making fans of the NES upset if we changed the gameplay in the areas where it was good, where it's like, oh well, why do I have to do this now? Why can I use the cane swing at any time? Now it's just a sword. These guys didn't get it. That kind of thing. Like you could see that kind of problem happening. But I think I was most interested in people playing it and just getting that nostalgia back. And I was just and that's why I was really excited for the PAX reveal, and I'm really glad it didn't get leaked, because that was like taking your friend to a surprise party. And there was a guy out there on an internet website who tried ruining the party. And it's like, I know these guys are working on DuckTales. And it's like, you jerk. Because it's like, okay, you know that we're working on this game. That's not some big secret journalism thing. All you're doing is you're ruining Christmas. It's like if everyone's standing around the Christmas tree. If everyone's standing around the Christmas tree and someone goes to open their present and you go, I know what he got. He got a new cordless drill. And it's just like, I mean, for a man my age, that's a good gift. So, anyway. But and everyone's just like, oh, and you open it, it's like, yeah, I did get a new cordless drill. It's like, you're ruining Christmas. But if you afterwards said, I knew he got the cordless drill. I was there when Mom bought it for him. It's like, oh, that's cool. That was fun. You have a fun story to tell. So, yeah, I got in contact with that guy. So that was kind of funny. Yeah, like the fact that the nostalgia that came from it is just exactly what we were hoping for, and it's been amazing to just be on this fun ride. It's fun to go on Twitter and people being like, "Oh my God, DuckTales!" And there's still people that are just finding out about it that haven't heard about the PAX release. Don't follow video games and then just are like seeing that DuckTales is popping up. People are like, "Why do I have the DuckTales theme song in my head?" And it's like, well, because there's probably someone near you that was talking about it recently, or you're in a store and someone is talking about the fact that this game came back. So yeah, like I hope what everyone takes away from it is just a celebration of DuckTales, and maybe it's a send off, maybe it's the last true DuckTales thing that happens. With Alan Young and June Foray and whatever. But like that was the weight on our back, and I really happy with what we did with it.
Absolutely, yeah, and I hope those actors, as you mentioned, not young, so who knows? But I hope that there's still time to leak out a new DuckTales 2.
That'd be great. That would be amazing. And in the meantime, I feel like Alan Young said the most fan mail he gets aside from DuckTales is Mr. Ed. He has Mr. Ed fans write him, and he probably has a lot of Mr. Ed fans write him because they're older and they still write letters, but. I feel like a call to arms, maybe Dtoid can do it, but everyone should write Alan Young. If you're a fan of DuckTales, like write Alan Young. Get a piece of paper, get a pen, get an envelope and a stamp. Write a letter to Alan Young. Go look up the address online. You can go find it, because I don't know if the lady's going to get overwhelmed with emails for addresses now. But like, write him a letter and just say what Scrooge McDuck means to you and what his work means to you, because he would really appreciate it. That would be really awesome. Yeah. Do it.
Oh, you absolutely should do it. Maybe that'll help another DuckTales thing to happen. Have you already thought about it? If they were to, or has there been any talks? If the game does really well and Capcom is like, we got to make Ultimate DuckTales versus Marvel 3 or something. If they suddenly want to take this run with it, do you have an idea of what you would want to do?
Oh, we have lots of ideas. I mean, but the thing is, you gotta walk before you can crawl before you can walk. Because
Sure,
you gotta finish what's in front of you before you focus on the next thing. And the whole team is like, oh, it'd be cool to do this, and I call, just in meetings with the guys at Capcom, be like, hey guys, can we do this next? And they're like, finish DuckTales. Like, you're not done yet. Just finish it, make it good. We know you're excited, and whatever. But their thing is, like, we just gotta see. Excuse me. Gotta see how it does. We just gotta see how it sells, and it's gonna be one of those vote with your money kind of things, because I think that if it does really well, there's a very strong possibility that Capcom will do another one with us. They might do another one with someone else who's just as talented as us, and that other publishers will say, "Man, we should do more of these. Like look at how good DuckTales did. Let's bring back our cherished IP. Let's bring back Heathcliff, like I mentioned earlier. Let's bring back Inspector Gadget. Let's bring back what's another one? Another cool '80s thing. The Littles.
Oh, we are the Littles.
Yes.
And we've got I forgot the theme song already. I know it starts with We Are the Littles. That's sort of what I was thinking in terms of what I was hoping, selfishly, what I was hoping DuckTales would do, if it is as big a hit as I think it should be. That it changes the way developers and audiences think about how to bring back an old idea or an old franchise. Because right now, Nintendo is doing a lot of stuff with their old franchises, which I don't want to say it doesn't feel as loved as DuckTales, but the complete overhaul you guys were willing to do, and the amount you pulled out from the vaults, and the amount of, to get those actors again was just such a surprise and such a testament to how much this project meant to you. That sort of feeling, I would love to see that happen for Mega Man or for Final Fight or something like that. If they got like Jesse Hura to play Hagar in a new fully voiced, hand-drawn Final Fight, that would be incredible. But that's the kind of thing that if DuckTales is as big a success as the feel it should be, that's the kind of thing I hope happens from here. That this kind of appreciation for these classic ideas, these irony-free, beautiful characters and notions from a time that's passed. I think there's a space for them, these, and to be treated like a huge global release, not just something you kind of push out the back door while nobody's looking, like a marquee title out of DuckTales. It's pretty awesome.
Thank you. I hope so too. Like, I don't think I could put it better than you just did, because like that's
really?
That's
I don't feel like I'm good at talking at all.
No, no, you did quite well. I feel that sounded so condescending. It's funny. Because it really. I'm so sorry, Jonathan. Because
Why? You're wonderful,
I don't
Austin.
know.
I'm having a great time.
Because I felt
happy?
like
I'm so happy.
because you really did. It was like, wow, yeah, that's really that makes a lot of sense. Because I'd like to think, though, you never know. You never know what people are going to like. You never know what's the right answer, and sometimes you don't know until it's too late to go back and fix it. So
absolutely.
So I feel like, yeah, we just made some decisions we felt were the right ones, and I think they were the right ones, and yeah, like, yeah, we'll see what other people do with their cherished brands, because I like some of the Nintendo stuff. I like the the new Donkey Kong Country stuff, and what's the one you don't like?
It's not that I don't like them, it's that I wish they would, and this is something that whole different topic talking about Nintendo, which I'm happy to do. When Nintendo is riding on a crest, they often just want to stay at that crest instead of keeping on the ascent, and they kind of crested at New Super Mario Brothers Wii, selling like 25 million, so they're just like, make more of those. So they made 2 more that are like, not going back to the start and trying to refurbish and reinvigorate the brand. They just kind of maintained, and those are good games, but I'd love to see them dig back to their roots again, like you guys did, like you almost always do. They should just give their games to Way Forward.
Everyone should write to Nintendo and tell them to give us a game. I think it's a good idea. We'd love to make a game with Nintendo. Yeah, I mean, I felt the same way about Nintendo in the '90s, on N64, where it's just like they stopped. They were like right around the time of GameCube, they stopped creating characters. It felt like, where it's like, you're only like, why does this game have to have Mario in it? Why can't it be a new guy, or why can't it be something else? But I feel like they've been doing a great job recently, like reinventing themselves with like Super Mario 3D Land and 3D Worlds.
Oh, sure.
And there's a lot of other neat games. And Wonderful 101. I saw that at E3, and I thought like, wow, that looks really neat. It's like Pikmin with action guys. So.
Oh yeah, I've been very impressed. Well, that's why I'm sort of happy the Wii U is putting them in a space where they have to struggle a little bit. They don't feel like they can just ride the crest of that. They have to dig in deep and take some risks to hope to have things pan out like it did with the Wii and the DS for them.
Well, and then they're not sitting on games now either. They're pushing them out, which is kind of neat because you're getting some awesome games for Wii U and 3DS. So it's like, I think they should keep on cranking out those games because there's some pretty awesome games, that they've been releasing.
Absolutely. Well, I can't tell. Oh, we should be wrapping up, says Sinistar. We almost ended on a really awesome note about DuckTales, and instead we ended on being like, Nintendo's kind of good, but they could be better. Well, let's hope for the best.
Well, look, we ended on the very thing that I was complaining about earlier, where it's like, well, I can do it better. Like, they're doing this wrong. Why didn't they do it this way? If they would have done it this way, everything would be better. We're hypocrites.
That's right. We proved we are hypocrites in the last second of this wonderful episode of Sub Holmes. Because we're all just the same. We can point out flaws in others, but we all have them too. We're all just human beings.
That ends on a horrible note. But I'll say this, and hopefully my internet connection's decent because I feel like I might be getting choppy. But this is probably going to be one of the last interviews I get to do for DuckTales, and I want to thank you for having me on here because this past year has been amazing, and I hope everyone gets a chance to play it and give it a shot because. If you were a fan of the show, you should really check it out. If you're a fan of the NES game, you should really try it. I think it's an amazing game. It's been such a pleasure to work on it, and for everyone involved, it was a big nostalgia trip. It's one of those things where, if I went back in time and told, like I said before, my 12-year-old self, oh, you'll be, directing a DuckTales video game when you're, an adult. It's like, what? I would have just passed out and cried. It would have been so much pressure and just like a dream come true and it has been like meeting all the actors that are still around and the new actors and big credit to Disney for working to get those guys and they did an amazing job and everyone that showed up had nothing but great things to say and great stories to tell and Alan Young was such a pleasure. Every single person, and they used to record the old show ensemble, so everyone knew each other. They were all friends, and at one recording, Rusey Taylor and Alan Young traded their paths crossed, and they just started sitting down and talking about the old days, and it was so neat because Rusey said Alan was like a second father to her. So it was such a nostalgia trip. It just blew me away. Not
just for you. It sounds like you got to witness these old creative masters, towards some of them for the end of their career, have this kind of sweet reunion where they got to really assess who they are and where they're at and really be a part of their craft with the people that understood it best with them. That's such a... Oh,
no, and
I just want to watch them do voice acting now
And they said it was
Yeah.
some of the most fun too, because they haven't gotten to do some of these voices in a long time. And Terrence McGovern, who does Launchpad, like we were laughing while he was recording. He's like, "Oh, it's so good to hear people laugh at what I'm saying," because sometimes you just get guys that aren't paying attention or they're just checking off things off a list. And we were just engaged and having so much fun with it that he was having fun with it. And it's just that's amazing. That's just amazing. Like simply put. So and then also working, with the some ex-Disney guys, which I know we're out of time. Sorry, Sinistar, but Mike Peraza, came to the studio after he did a lot of our background stuff, and then he just told stories of working in Disney in the 70s and 80s. Him and his wife are Disney animators on Great Mouse Detective and Little Mermaid. He was art director on Little Mermaid. So I know we didn't get to talk about that. Come on, we can talk 10 more minutes, right? Like, this isn't bandwidth you guys are paying for, right? Come on.
It's there's someone else who has a show that's coming on soon. We got like a TV.
Well, we'll stop anyway. Anyway,
Beware,
just share
that show canceled.
Oh, thanks, Sinistar. You've just been given permission to talk about Mike Peraza a little bit.
Okay, so was that Sinistar? Was it actually doing that?
What the hell?
I think he was actually.
I'm confused.
What the hell? Yeah. I know he is confusing, but I've come to learn to understand him, and he really is telling you.
Okay,
Mike Peraza if you want. I'd like to hear about it. Yeah.
So I mean, we were looking for an artist we're looking for the show, the look of the show, and for our internal artists, and we went and looked online, and this guy had this blog, Days of Ducktales, and he was a layout artist on the original show. And I contacted him. I was pulling a few images from his website to say, look, we got to make the backgrounds look like this, make them look like this. And I contacted him and said, hey, do you have any extra art laying around, that I could come and scan and show, because we're working on this DuckTales game. And he said, oh, that sounds really neat. He's like, well, I mean, I'm available to work if you guys need some art. And it's like, yeah, sure, okay. So we contracted him to draw the layouts for our background. And like the Duckburg you see at the beginning, that like he drew that. Like he drew that in the TV show, and he drew that for us for our game. He drew a brand new Duckburg where you see Scrooge's mansion in the background, and he knows the show. He said like, oh yeah, the two tallest hills in Duckburg have the tallest one has his house, and the second tallest has his money bin. So he just knew it, and we had another Disney artist who was a 10-year veteran on Disney TV paint the background. So our approach to the backgrounds was as true to the TV show as our hand-drawn animation. Mm-hmm. And I know some people have a problem with the 3D, 2D thing, but that was a direct result of our other games like Blood Rain and Boy and His Blob feeling a little flat. So we were experimenting with, well, how do we make it feel a little more alive and with a little more depth? And the way the guys at the Rayman team do it, unlike Rayman Origins, is they just have a lot of layers of 2D, so they kind of get a little more parallax, like a subtle parallax, to give like the ground you stand on have more depth. And we thought, well, what if we took the 2D paintings and applied it to 3D? We did some experiments, and we really liked the look. So our approach isn't a bastardization of the painting. The moment you put something on a polygon, it doesn't become this horrible lack of trying. It is actually, our approach was what it would have been on the TV show with these guys that knew how to do it inside and out. So Mike Peraza drew things like he would have for the show. Rick Evans painted them. He had episodes of the show up, and he was like matching styles, matching like technique, and it was just amazing. That opening scene of Transylvania, that was all him actually. He did the drawings for that too, but it was before Mike joined up. So Rick Evans, that opening Transylvania scene, that's all him, and he did an amazing job with that. But Peraza, him and his wife worked at Disney in the 70s and 80s, and he had all sorts of stories to tell. Just about working back there back in the day, and his wife Patty was a in-betweener and a cell painter. And they worked on the Black Cauldron. They just talked about.
Oh, wow.
We went to lunch, and they just told us all sorts of stories. Like, oh yeah, this is why this one fell apart. This is why this one fell apart. And it's like, wow, the parallels of what they were going through with what we were going through. Guys with suits coming up, like, well, that's too much paint. We got to reduce the amount of paint you got. It's like it's gotta. no, we can't do that. It's like, well, he was talking about a Little Mermaid. The guy had a white shirt, and it's like, but the boat's on fire, and he's like, well, it needs to be yellow. It's like, well, no, just use white. We got lots of white. Use the white. He's like, are you kidding me, guy with clipboard? Like, no, we're going with yellow, because it's on fire, and they just did anyway. Or just all these like neat stories. It's like it's so wonderful because the magic of Disney, and everyone tells anyone who's an artist or wants to work at Disney or wants to work in a video game company, they say, it's not like you see on TV. It's kind of hard. It's like, yeah, no kidding. Yes, it is, but that's what makes it fun. It's like, no, you embrace that. It's like, oh, it's not actually easy. Well, no job is. But once you get past those little headaches and you go to lunch with your friends, like I'm going to lunch with like Jeff Luke and Adam Tierney, and just go, oh, I can't believe I have to change this button layout in this game. Like, oh no, dude, it's cool, man. Don't worry about it. You just commiserate and you get over it. But it's really neat. So being able to meet Mike Peraza, and he came and talked to the team, and he gave us the hand drawn drawings from that. Actually, I forgot about those. I should probably bust those out and do stuff with them. But yeah,
oh, absolutely, yeah, that'd be incredible. So interesting to hear that the. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I had nothing.
Oh, you sure? I wasn't sure.
I was mumbling. Oh, no. I don't mind cutting you off, but I appreciate you not cutting me off.
To hear that there was canceled projects they probably got to tell you about, and you got to understand that there's so much stuff going on behind the scenes that as an artist you don't have any control over, where the business people come in and kind of point you in the direction that you have to go in. Man, I wish I could have been there for those stories. Is there any? You weren't filming all this, right? There's not going to be a making of Ducktales Remastered documentary or anything.
No, there's not.
No?
But
that would have been amazing.
It would have been amazing, but it also would have been boring too, because there's so much boring that happens. There really is. From time to time, there's entertaining things. Like the day of the PAX reveal, that was an entertaining day. The days where we have someone visit the studio are entertaining days, but in between that, it's slow. Like things take time to make, and it's just kind of can be a very slow, boring process. It's like watching a painter paint. There's a reason there's a speed up camera on it. Usually because it's like, cool, he's putting that brush down. Well, I'm gonna leave and come back when you're done, so I can see the end result. I got my 5 seconds of watching you work. It's that kind of thing. But what I'm really curious about is 20 years from now, when there's lots of people who've worked in the industry, veterans who release memoirs about games that never came out, who are no longer worried about NDA, who are no longer worried about, what they can say. Like, I've heard stories about Atari from working with Atari guys that are just like, oh, wow, cocaine, that's cool, just like, you just hear things like, that's nuts. So, yeah, like, I'm really curious what's going to happen in the future with that, so keep an eye out.
Absolutely, we'll live to see it, I hope. So far, so good.
Me too. Too.
Well, I want to say there's one last Ducktales-related question, I think. Yeah, we'll do it. We'll see how it goes. I don't think you've answered it already. You did talk a little bit about how you took out the time limit, and you were just talking about how you changed the backgrounds to make them have more depth, and how you're still very loyal to the original look of the game, of the show, but still it's a kind of futuristic thing to have polygons. Did you have to consider a lot about how to alter the NES style of making a game so DuckTales would be considered valuable by today's audience? Because there are people saying that Nintendo should be selling their old NES games for 25 cents. So like, those games have no worth by today's standard. And you were really trying to stay true to those principles, but at the same time you wanted to make a product that people would be willing to pay $15 for. It's 15, right?
Yes, it's 15.
Yeah. So was that something you had to? Was that yet another added consideration that you had to put in terms of being worried about how people would interpret these old design ideas for a new audience? Did you think that they wouldn't interpret them as valuable like they are?
There was an initial concern that, how are we going to take a game where the first thing everyone says is you can speedrun it in 10 minutes and turn it into a $15 game that people will want to play for more than 15 minutes. Those challenges were brought up early on, but to be honest, it's been so long since we thought about it, it's hard to go back and think about what the actual concerns were at the time, because once we started making the game, those concerns went away. It was, now this level isn't something where I'm bypassing, some fun things, some challenges. I'm not I'm not glitching my way into the wall from the Robo-Duck to skip past and bypass all the things I need to do in order to speedrun it. That was the biggest concern, and I feel like, aside from that, when we started in development, we never pulled any punches. Like you wouldn't know that the game was a download game versus a retail box game from the amount of effort that was put into it. And I guess that's kind of a big thing, is that I've worked at places where it's like, oh well, this is just shovelware, no one's gonna care, don't even bother, but everyone treated it like, hey man, I'm putting all the heart into it, as if it's this AAA endeavor. Not just, oh, it's only a $15 download, we can make it kind of cruddy. It's not going to matter kind of thing. Which, I don't know if anyone really does too much, but it can be a perception on an audience side. Like I said, and it was very interesting, and I think it's great that you have people come on here and talk about stuff, but it can be hard to remember all the decisions you made and why you made them. It's hard to dip back into my memory banks and go, wait, why did we take that thing out? And then you go back through all the steps over the course of weeks, and like why something didn't work, and you go, oh yeah, that's why we did that. So there might have been a little bit of a concern at first, but once we started making the content, making the art, and they got the voice actors, all that went out the window. It was like, no, this makes sense for what is the current premium download price. It's like what's a $15 game now was a $50 to $60 game back in the '80s, and I think it's well worth the money. So that's my take.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very fine answer as always, Austin Ivansmith.
Thank you. As always, I'm great at answering your questions.
You sure are. That's why you're here.
I really am. No, this is fun. I love the casual atmosphere. It's fun, and it was fun meeting you at E3, even though you were sick.
No,
you were talking like this, and it was like, hey, Austin. Oh, I feel so bad. I feel really, really sick. Oh, okay, it's nice to meet you. And yeah, I felt so bad for you.
I vaguely remember that. Oh, yeah. That's sad to say. I wasn't at my best, but it was great to see you, and it was great to see you at the time too. And everyone should go play DuckTales, even if you don't care about the old game, even if you don't care about the DuckTales franchise. If you want to see a really beautifully made, hand-drawn, lovingly crafted, very well acted, masterfully acted, structured 2D platforming video game, you should just get DuckTales. I honestly, like I said before, and to be totally frank, the original NES game, I like it. It's not in my top 10 NES games, but Remastered is one of my favorite games so far this year. So great job. Awesome.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. Don't bark at me. Yeah.
I shouldn't be so barky, it's true. Well, I guess we should sign off. Speaking of barking, I have to go walk my dog. She's been barking at me in the background. Anything you want the people to know before they can follow you on Twitter? You're Austin Ivan-Smith.
Ivan-Smith. Just search for Austin Ivansmith. I'll come up. Follow me, follow Way Forward, and buy DuckTales, and look forward to Jake next week. Another Way Forward for Wayfor-gust, Jake, and then Matt Bozon. Matt Bozon will be on here the week after PAX, right?
Yeah, it'll kind of a bonus episode of Wayfor-gust, kind of the culmination, the secret boss, if you will, because it'll be in this September.
That's so perfect, because he is like the secret boss. He is our secret boss.
Thanks so much, Austin. Always good to see you. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you. I'm waving this time. Bye.